Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lunchtime with Demons. Abella Caress here with Ryan Stone, and today we're talking about accountability. How are you? How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm good. Good morning. Yeah, we're recording in the morning.
Yeah, yeah. I guess it's a little different. We normally are kind of lunchtimey.
Yeah, we normally do it at lunch, so it's morning time with demons.
I love that. Breakfast with demons.
I have my Dunkin' here, which
I'm
I
always drinking coffee, so you
yeah,
can't
I
tell
know.
by me drinking coffee what time of day it is.
Usually I have like my iced coffee that's in my fridge, but we ran out this morning and Kim and I looked at each other like, what do we do? And so then we went to Dunkin'. But I there's a coffee place right by my house called Camp Kingston, and I love their coffee. Did I take you there when you were
I was
here?
gonna say, I feel like that was the one coffee shop we went to when I was there. It's
Mm.
very tan and has kind of nice. I think we had breakfast burritos there even, or I had a
Yes.
breakfast burrito there. I don't remember if
Yeah.
you did or not.
It's really, really tasty.
Yeah, it was actually pretty decent.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
breakfast burrito. The coffee was good.
Their coffee is so good. And they have gluten-free, dairy-free food, which is great for me because
Nice.
yeah, as you guys know, gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, corn-free, I'm all the phrase.
All the things. I love
I
it.
I photosynthesize, I eat air. Um but oh man, I just take deep breaths and that's how I sustain.
I love
No, but they have good food for people on strict allergy diets. Um anyways, so today we're talking about accountability and it's we're going to hit on so many different aspects of accountability, whether it's within your practice, within your friendships, within your life as a whole. Just accountability. It's such a great word. And
it.
and I think that there's a lot of misunderstandings of like how to show up for yourself and for other people, um, and be accountable.
Yeah, I agree. I think sometimes too that has to evolve in this work and the way that you find out that that happens. So yeah, without a doubt, I will say I've really seen how much that's changed in my life and how I hold myself accountable, how I want to show up in my life and in my friendships and things. So yeah, I think it's a great topic and an important one to keep, I think, in mind as we do this kind of work.
Yeah, I had a really cool experience with one of my students yesterday. One of my students, her name is Eleanor, and I'm sure she won't mind that I'm saying her name on the podcast. I hope she doesn't mind. I'm gonna find out. But I'm not gonna share anything like personal. But I just had a really beautiful conversation with her, and where we were talking about um her practice and how far she's come and the level of like self reliance that she's recently kind of felt and the the relinquishment of the need for external validation as much as internal validation, and that shift happens after a while in your practice. You start to acknowledge internal validation, personal validation. Finally you start to see the value in it, and when you do that you then start to take a look at the rest of your relationships in your life, and you take a look at your friendships and your family and your life, and then your relationship with your interactions within those relationships, and everything or anything that is no longer in alignment with who you are, who you've evolved into, it starts to feel really jarring. It starts to feel really like apparent that something is off. And so we were discussing that, and she was explaining to me how like ways in which she would have responded or reacted in the past that may have been either petty or small or what I call punching down, are no longer responses that she even thinks of. And I was saying to her that like I agree. You hit a point in life when you're doing this type of work, or just in general when you're doing personal work, because that's all this work is. All
Yeah.
this work is the commitment to the self. And when you're doing that work, you will come to a place where you realize that the takedown of someone else does not benefit you. It not only does it not benefit you, but it takes you down as well. It pulls you down as well. And it was funny because I brought up the parable of Jesus turning the cheek, turning his cheek.
Hmm. Turn
And
the other cheek. Yeah.
yeah, and a lot of people don't really understand that concept, like turn like the idea of like to turn the other cheek. And the reason why people don't understand it is because they haven't reached the higher vantage point where you naturally turn the other cheek. You naturally you kind of get to a place where you're like, oh, like I it's not that you would turn the other cheek to be slapped.
Yeah.
You turn your other cheek because you're turning the other way. You turn away from what's happening. You turn away from the slap. It's not to be slapped again. And
Yeah.
it's anyway. So some of these parables I think are sometimes misunderstood or misconstrued, at least from their original intention. But um, I think the evolution of the self gets you to it will get you to a place where you learn that you're not just you are not accountable for other people and their actions, and releasing them from your orbit is one of the scariest but best things you can do. And it's a way to show the self that you're accountable for the self, because that you value the self.
Exactly. You value yourself, your, your energy, where you're at, and like you said, punching down is not taking you in the direction you want to go. And you can't be looking this way and trying to walk that way. It just doesn't work that way. And so I think that's kind of like what you were really saying there in terms of the parable is that you can't continue that fight with somebody. And, are they wrong, or do you just need to be right? I think that those are the kind of things that, you start seeing for yourself, of that separation between the minutia of other people in relationships. It's not about me, which is the odd part when you start to really kind of see that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's strange. It's a strange feeling. It's a strange feeling. We also have our pride and our ego that comes raging to the surface when accountability needs to be had or taken. Um, because we don't like to be told that we're wrong.
Yeah, that's why like I bring up that point, because I think it's at the heart of like the do I need to be right, or are they really wrong? And then when you release that need to police other people, first of all, and like, oh, you need to see it my way. No, I have my viewpoint. I'm solid in who I am and what I believe. And you, because I believe so much in myself, I believe that you should have that same grace and gratitude to do and be who you are and where you're at in your journey. Even if I can see that maybe that was steps that I went through, I'm not the person that necessarily needs to correct that for you or bring that to your attention. That's your journey, Great. I can see it.
Mhm.
Have a good day.
Have a good day. Yeah, it's. I think what's hard too is trying to find that line where you want to be accountable for others that are around you, because you feel like you need to take care of them. I see that a lot.
I get that. And I agree. And I think that a lot of times that is a fine line between caring for others, and then also, have you been asked to care for others? And I know that's hard when you care about somebody and you don't want them to suffer, or you don't want them to go through trials or tribulations or to trip over something. You want to move that thing that's going to trip them up, but they may need to trip over it,
Mm-hmm.
and you may just have to let them.
Mm-hmm. It's it makes me think about like I for a very long time would put myself out on the out because I treat people how I want to be treated. And so it would extend myself towards people the way I would want people to extend themselves towards me. And I would do that so much that it would just take and take and take from me, kind of pulling from my well. And then I would realize that I had nothing more to give. And then I wouldn't understand why people wouldn't reciprocate. It was such a like vicious cycle.
It really
And
is. You kind of
yeah,
drowned in the absence of your own refuel. And that's
mhm,
kind of where the circle doesn't complete itself.
yeah. And what you don't realize and what a lot of people fail to tell you is that it's the lack of personal accountability.
That's the double-edged sword on that, right? Like you're like, oh, I'm giving, I'm giving, I'm giving, but you're not giving to you.
Yeah. And that's where you're going to find the battle with self-worth and the battle with your relationship with yourself. Yeah. I was talking to a friend about her family dynamic and um, particularly one of her parents is very much like that. And my mom's like that too, actually, just give, give, give. And they pride themselves on this idea of like, I'll give you the shirt off my back. I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll give it to you. I'll do anything for you. And my mom isn't as my mom doesn't go as far as this person that I know's parent that I'm talking about.
Mhm.
But I think one of the things is you have to be so careful when you go too far because you then step into the realm of enablement where you start enabling someone. You actually start taking away their ability to learn the difficult lessons, to learn and grow and unfortunately face those hardships that will change them, that will break them, and it will hurt. It's there's no doubt about it. But when you stand in the way of that, you are not the savior there. You are very literally the thing preventing them from expansion.
Yeah, from growth because they
Yeah.
haven't had those experiences that they needed to grow. I mean, it's like
Mhm.
I can tell you that the stove's hot all day, and yes, mentally you know it's hot, but there's a defining difference between touching it and knowing it because you've experienced it.
Yeah. You cannot change your perspective without literally a lived experience.
I
You
agree.
cannot have empathy without empathy. Empathy comes from the lived experience. It's a shared lived experience. That is empathy. Sympathy and compassion does not have to be a shared lived experience. I can have compassion for someone who is a survivor of war because I've never been to war, but I can't empathize with someone who's been in battle. I can't. There is a level of understanding that won't be reached, right?
Yeah.
I can, we can only do so much. And when we meet someone that is hurting or in a situation that we empathize with, we have a tendency to go that extra leg. When I see someone that's a survivor of SA or someone that's a survivor of narcissism or someone that's a survivor of like any sort of like emotional like abuse, I tend to very much like put myself very quickly. I tend to see that I want to put myself out to help them. It's very quick.
Yeah.
And it's a I have to be very careful because you can become an enabler very fast and it becomes dangerous to both people. You become risk factors for each other. You see, you do,
No, yeah.
and it's fucked. It's really fucked. And that's where trauma bonds form. That's where these things form that can be so toxic for yourself and your friendships, your relationships. And you don't want to build relationships on these things. You want to build relationships on other more stable ground.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, because then you stand the risk of being codependent upon one another. Um, well, I can go into codependency later because there's a lot of misconceptions and misunderstandings of what true codependency is.
Yeah.
But that's another beast. Um, but yeah, it all circles back to accountability and going, am I being accountable in this relationship? It dawned on me recently that there's a few relationships in my life where I have really been okay with them treating me um like honestly like second rate like store meat. That sounds so fucking bad, but like truthfully, I have some friends that are very like self-absorbed and like self-focused, and that's where they are in their life, and that's okay. That's okay. That's where they are in their life. And I think you get to a place where you realize like, oh, sometimes people are at a place in their life that doesn't align with where I'm at. You know, I'm going into, oh boy, hold on.
Okay.
Oh boy, there we go. Um, I had my phone was on do not disturb. Um, but yeah, you know, I'm at a place in my life where I'm going into my 40s. Yay. I'm actually really excited about that because my 30s sucked. And you know, I'm a mom and I have a lot of things that I'd like to accomplish, but I don't have time or space anymore to be a back burner friend for people. I don't.
I
Like,
get it.
I really don't. I don't call me your friend then. We're acquaintances. And I that's fine. That's fine. I love having acquaintances. And this is how I feel about these so-called like close friends of mine that really, really love to call me close friends. Um, I still want you to eat dinner. I just don't want to sit at the same table as you.
Yeah, exactly.
I still want you to have a fucking like 5-star meal and stay at a 5-star hotel. I still wish you the absolute best. But I am not going to sit there and wait for you to look my direction. Like, I'm not going to beg to sit at tables where I'm not wanted. I'm also not going to be someone that I'm there when you remember that I'm there and that you need me. I have a couple people in my life that really just need me when they need me, and I'm fucking done with that. But the thing is, I didn't notice it. This is the truth. I didn't notice it until recently. And it's because I didn't recently become accountable for that in my own life.
As I say, that's the other side of accountability in relationships. It's not just how you show up for other people, it's how you yourself show up for yourself.
Yes,
That's the other side of accountability I think we oftentimes miss or forget to think about.
exactly. There was a lot of things in my life that I put on the back burner that deserved to be on the front, and I didn't do it. And so now that they are back on the front, you know, like time with my daughter should be on the front line. Spending time with my family should be on the front line. Talking to my friends that I love, like making sure that they're okay, should be on the front line. Like doing things like this, the creative projects that I love, like our podcast and my books, should be on the front line. Going to the gym because I love it should be minimum 4 days a week because I love it. Why have I not been doing it? Why? You know, done. So as soon as I put all those things back on the front burner, suddenly I saw all the ways in which I was on the back burner for people, and they just take when they feel it's convenient. And so I had to emotionally and energetically cut those ties. And it's because I'm now accountable for those areas in my life that should have been accountable to begin with. And when you become accountable for yourself, you then hold other people accountable for things. It's such an interesting like dichotomy of energy and you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
it's
The way it works, I think most people think about friendships in a scale sort of fashion of like we're trying to
yeah,
balance this thing. It's not. It's not a balance like that. It's really just meeting each other from your own personal lives with your own personal things. And how does that mesh together?
yeah,
It may really mesh very well, and that's what makes, that very close friend. And then, sorry, it totally just like raised my hand. That's so weird.
that's
Sorry.
okay.
But yeah, so and then, but so that's how it should work is that I'm being me and I'm doing all the things that are important to me and you're doing all the things that are important to you. And we actually collide together very well in how that
Yes.
works. And that's what makes a genuine, great friendship is that I'm doing my thing, you're doing your thing, and we kind of really work very well
Mhm.
together. I mean, that's why
Yeah.
I see our friendship is that, you know,
Yes.
I know we do a lot of this work together, but I would do all this work on my own.
Hmm.
And so it just happens that it all fits together for us and gives us these great opportunities to further our friendship.
Yes. And it's like when you are putting yourself first and you are making yourself a priority and you are holding yourself accountable for your own personal relationship and someone's energy and their relationship with themselves and with you no longer aligns, it's okay
Yeah.
to to step away from that relationship. It's okay. Don't ghost someone, but you're allowed to take a step back. And if that person decides to ghost you or step away, and you might be surprised, the relationship might starve itself, and that's okay too. That's okay. That's fine as well. I mean, you'd be surprised at how the cycles of friendships can end, and they end sometimes with your help and sometimes without, and sometimes it's just part of nature. I'm about to celebrate 20 years of friendship with my friend Lindsay. I don't know if she's listening, but Lindsay, if you're listening, hi, I love you. Um, 20 years. We're very excited. I think we're going to go to Joshua Tree together. And when I think back on our friendship, we became friends in our early 20s. And so we're both going, into our 40s. And I just like, I look at her and I'm like, wow, wow, like, wow. And like, we were texting about it and just had this kind of moment where we were so grateful that we never expected anything from the other person other than like, we knew that they were going to grow. That's it. We knew that we were going to grow and change and that we could somehow meet when we can. That's it. And when we met, we never had expectations of the meeting. That was the other big thing was that like when we spoke, it was never like, I expect you to show up for me in some way. It was just like, I just expect you to be you. And I want to catch up to who you are and hold space for that. And that's it. And we've maintained this friendship all these years. And I look at her as just such an example of I'm so grateful for that friendship. But when I look at why this friendship has worked the way that it has, it's because she's always been accountable for herself. I look at this woman and I'm like, she's busted her ass since her early 20s and has never relied on someone else. I look at her and I'm like, this is someone that has fucking done the work. I mean, done the work. And it's funny, she doesn't work with gods. She doesn't, me and her have totally different lifestyles. She doesn't, she works in the medical field. Like she does not like we literally could not be more different. And yet one thing we both have in common is we both sing. And our voices together, like, oh my gosh, like this girl and I can sit in the kitchen and like harmonize over like a fork. That we could like hit the fork on something and like do like a three-part harmony in like a second. And like outside of just being able to sing together, and we can also sit in a silence together that I can't explain. Like our bodies just hit a frequency of just peace because there's zero expectation to perform with each other. And it's because we've recognized the accountability in each other throughout the years. And I truly wanted to share this because I think that I call bullshit on people saying that like you can't actually foster long-term adult relationships. Yes, you can, but you have to hold space for the adult and you have to remove your expectations of that adult being something for you that you should be for you.
I agree. I think it's the expectations that ultimately become problematic and difficult to maintain a relationship. They create these things that make it challenging and difficult to create a good space or a safe space between you two.
Yeah. I can't talk to someone every day. I can't. I mean, I can barely talk to myself. I'm trying. I'm trying, like I am not someone that can talk every day. But here's the thing. Let me be so fucking clear about this. If that is what you need as a friend, you deserve better than me. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. I refuse. I have a friend, they're not, I don't know. I know someone who prides themselves on being a bad friend. And they're like, oh, this is just how I am. This is just where I'm at. This is just where what I have to give. And for a long time, I accepted that. For a long time, I thought that was okay. I don't think it's okay anymore. I don't. I don't think it's okay. If that's what you have to give, if that's who you are, thank you for telling me. That may have been okay in my life at one point. It's not anymore. And so I say this moving forward. I now know how much time I have to offer people as friends, and 90% of people will deserve better than what I have to give. It's the truth. It's the truth. I don't have a lot of time. I don't. And I think that in friendships, people they do deserve time to some degree, but at the same time, if you don't need that, you got to be accountable for what you know that you need, right? You
Exactly. But I
don't
think
need
that's
that.
why the dynamics of different people and different friendships in your lives serve different aspects of your life too. I
Yeah.
think that it's kind of that like, oh, you need to be the everything. Whereas I think the healthy side for me feels like I have different friends that show up in different ways and we have
Yes.
different things. And then on top of that, those friendships ebb and flow. Like
Yeah.
this month, we've talked every day this month. And then next month, we talk twice. And it happens like that. But I also don't set an expectation for myself as that is. And so sometimes I think, yes, maybe I would love to talk every day, but you know what? The life is lifing, and reality is that there generally isn't always the time for that for, meeting sometimes, on both schedules and things like that. And that's where I think expectation creates those difficulties is that I have this expectation that is maybe not reasonable for just being human, you
Hmm.
know? So-
But also like what there's also points where I'm like, I don't even know what I would talk about with someone every day. Like
I
truly,
agree.
I don't. Like my life is beautiful. I love my life. But at the same time, I'm like, do you want to know what it was like taking Juniper to school today? Or all my sessions that I can't talk about because of client confidentiality? Or like what are we talking about? Like you want me to talk about my kinky bag because I have a bag now that's that I put all my kinky stuff in. Like I made that so it's more organized and it's not in like a Tupperware in my closet. Like like want to know about ballet? I went back to ballet. That's fun. But yeah, I have moments where I'm like I don't really know what to talk about. And that's the thing. It's like then you have that moment where you're like, I feel exhausted by the idea of going, what do I talk about? I'm tired. I'm tired before I even have the conversation, which you shouldn't we shouldn't want that either.
Yeah, that's not, a good feeling either. That's why I jokingly say a lot of times is that this is an endless conversation between you and I. There's
Hmm.
no beginning and no end. And, when I send a message or reach out and you get back when you can or are able. And I think just giving people that room and that freedom to do something like that allows it to just show up as you are.
Yeah. 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 But I think the difference between showing up as you are is your intention. Your
Yeah.
intention, my intention is never to not show up for someone. My
Yeah.
intention is never to, but it's the people that go around being like, I pride myself on like, I know who I am. I'm not a great friend. Do better. Do
And I
better.
agree. And I guess, like I said, to me, I know energetically the difference
Yeah.
between that and somebody that just genuinely has had a busy month.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. Like, pay attention to just what people are kind of literally saying to you. Like, if they're openly telling you, like, I'm a shitty friend, I won't be able to maintain this relationship, I won't be there for you, and I will only be able to reach out to you when it's convenient for me, you should run the other direction. And I've had friends like this where like they meet up with me and they're like, "Oh my God, this is so nice seeing you. I'm gonna leave in like 15 minutes and go hang out with so and so because they're way more fun than hanging out with you." Like, where I've just been literally like a passing energy for this person, and you deserve more than that. You deserve way more than that. But at the same time, if you are friends with someone and you see that they're trying and they're doing the best that they can and they do their best, like, maybe take a second and kind of remove your expectations of them and give them a little bit more grace and freedom to get back to you when they can. um, so I do think it does play into like intentions and paying attention to where they are accountable in their life. It's pretty obvious. It's
Yeah.
pretty obvious when someone is accountable for their own actions. Um, it's also pretty obvious when someone is incredibly defensive about their actions and they're not taking accountability. And then they
Yeah,
like
I
to
think that's a
blame it
huge
on
part
other
of
things.
it. Yeah, like for instance, like you talk about when something like that is met, and like something is not being met in the relationship and it's brought up, how do we address that? How do, we move forward with it? And great that maybe, okay, somebody expresses a need and I'm sorry that, is not being met for you. I don't know that I can, maybe.
Mhm.
Or yes, I would love to. So, but it becomes that opportunity to grow or decide that maybe our friendship isn't as close as we thought it should be.
Mhm. I think it's a fascinating topic when it comes to humans. When it comes to working with the divine, there's a whole other level of accountability to consider.
Yeah.
I mean, we, one of the things that I find really fascinating about the human exchange with the divine is like our fear of accepting accountability with them and our avoidance towards that, as if like their judgment, and this is where deconstruction is really important, but we're so scared of the judgment of the divine. And I can assure you that that has been indoctrinized in you so deeply. That judgment is not fact. It is not coming. It is not a thing. It is a thing because of organized religion that you're probably not even practicing, has made you believe is going to happen, but it is not their agenda. Their agenda is not to judge you. And yet it's it just bubbles under the surface for so many people. And it makes it really hard to have these co-evolution, co-expansion, co-creation relationships with the divine if you're not willing to hold yourself accountable for what's happening in your practice.
Yeah, it makes it hard to really evaluate where you're at, where you're going with them, and being able to accept the things that they're offering, which sometimes can be a bit of constructive criticisms and things like that. That it's hard to see that or take that in a constructive way if you're not ready to have that level of accountability for yourself. But it comes without judgment.
It does. It does. Um, and one of the most beautiful things that can happen is just being accountable for your thoughts and your feelings. Those observation of feelings. I call it cleaning the pipes. one of my students just had a huge breakthrough with his team where he had something that, was kind of surrounded with shame, like padded by shame, that he finally just admitted to one of his team members and just saying it, just taking accountability for his feelings, just saying it out loud was so freeing, he said. And so I was like, yeah, because think about that. That's been sitting in the well, untouched, processed, just sitting there, collecting dust, collecting whatever, just all clogged up in that pipe. And then you finally pull it out. Like, even if you can't process it, even if you don't know how to be accountable for the thought, the feeling, or the emotion, just the expression of it is freeing. Just the expression of it will take you to the next level in your practice.
Completely. That's actually why I love to say better out than in, meaning that oftentimes I think we bottle these things up and we never let them out. And even just like you said, just speaking it into existence to let it and start to release from your body without necessarily trying to do anything with it. Because that comes, I think, in time just by acknowledging it and recognizing it that it's been kind of trapped inside of there, keeps
Mm-hmm.
that stuff. And then you start a regular practice of releasing things and not letting them bottle up and stay inside of you. And that creates its own continuity of those sort of things.
Yep. Yep. It's it's like I've gotten to this place where I'm like painfully self-aware, where like I go to my therapist, like I'm not my therapist. I'm not in therapy right now. But when I was, I would go and I would be like, I would sit down and I would start therapizing myself. And I would be like, oh, this is what I'm working through. These are the things that came up. And as they came up, I started to like observe and acknowledge. And then as I was acknowledging, I realized that this specifically had to do with this and this is why. And um, she would just be like, oh boy. Um, she, she'd be like, so
Do you want me to leave the room for you?
yeah, like the amount of jokes of like, so do I pay you? Like, where are we at with this? Um, and yeah. So, but honestly, yeah, I'm not surprised that I've gotten to that place in my practice because of just years and years of Lucifer being like, bring it to the surface, say it, say it. I mean, he would sit in front of me and he'd be like, say it. We would sit in meditation and he would be like, I'm not leaving until you say it. And he would make me say things that I was thinking that I just did not want to say. Even if, and the biggest thing was like, I would say to him, like, I don't know that it's true. I don't know that I want to say it because I don't know that I actually think it. It's like I'm saying it, but I don't know that I actually feel that way. And he's like, say it. So then I would say it, and then he'd be like, do you feel that way? And I'd be like, I guess not. I don't know. I guess it, and I have diagnosed OCD, which has a tendency to make me think things, make me think that I believe certain things. OCD is tricky like that. Um, it can be it's a really big liar. It's like a big liar in your head, and it lies to you all the time. And sometimes, if you're not careful, you can believe the lies that it says. And OCD is just, if it's compound with other things like autism, ADHD, and other neurodivergent spicy diagnoses, you can sometimes find yourself in a very scary place with OCD. And I have, unfortunately. And I've spent years on SSRIs and other medications to try and navigate my OCD because it's gotten quite ugly and violent at times. And the thoughts or the lies that are in my head have been just very, very hard to navigate and see through. It's like a dense fog or a dark pall that just lays upon my glassy tomb of sadness. Um,
Sorry, I giggle because if you write the writer, you comes out. I love it. But
okay.
no, I think
Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. I have to say something before I forget this. We watched
okay.
Frozen 2 last night, and Olaf, there's a scene, there's a scene with Olaf and Anna, and he's like, he literally goes, hey Anna, Uh, and he's like, since you're older and all knowing, um, or something like that. And then he has like this, he's holding a leaf and he's like, I've, what he says, I've gotten poetic in my maturity. And he like throws the leaf or something. I don't remember. God damn it. Hold on. I'll say what you're saying. I'm gonna find what he says because it's so funny.
Oh, I was just saying I love when those poetic moments like that stretch out for you, and I think it's fun too in the level of like morbidity sometimes with just how dark life could be. But I also do enjoy my own personal darkness, and so I think I revel in it when I recognize it in other people.
It's so bad. Okay, wait, here it is.
Just living the dream, Anna. Oh, how I wish this could last forever. And yet change mocks us with her beauty. What's that? Forgive me, maturity is making me poetic. Tell me, you're older and thus all knowing. Do you ever worry about the notion that nothing is permanent? Uh, no. Really? I can't wait until I'm ancient like you so I don't have to worry about important things.
I love that about impermanence on top of it all.
No, it's like since you're older and yeah, I can't wait till I'm ancient like you and nothing matters. Oh my God. Oh, but yeah, I real as I was watching it, I was like, wow, and I am Olaf, apparently. Like I just thought about that. I was like, I'm pretty sure that I am Olaf to the demons. Like I go hang out with them and I'm like, so you're older and all knowing. Um, do you ever think about the fact that nothing is permanent? Sorry, I've gotten poetic in my maturity, but like anyway. But yeah, it just made me think about that. I was
I
like,
love that.
I don't know, they take me seriously at all. I'm just like a little snowman that they keep alive. But yeah. Anyway. Anyway, yeah, it's what was I saying? I don't even know what I was saying anymore. Sidetracked by
I
Olaf.
mean, yeah, we're overall, I mean, talking about like the um with the divine and how accountability kind of just, is such a focus of or I shouldn't say a focus, but I think it's actually like the heart of the work with them.
It,
When, you hold yourself accountable with them and you continue to build that relationship, that accountability, I think is a guiding force for you with the work and your own personal, life and how that builds out for yourself.
it's true. It's true. And if you can just sit with it, if you can just sit with your thoughts and your feelings and observe them and give them space to exist. Oh, I think I was talking about my own neurodivergence and my journey with that, and my journey with OCD and the sort of lying in my mind and the violence that happens in that mindscape and kind of navigating those thoughts. It can be really, really hard, but truly being accountable for it, whether it is true or not, whether it is a lie that your brain has made up, it has been helpful. It has been the one thing that has been the most honest, which is just allowing my thoughts to have a space to exist and then being accountable for those thoughts, even if they're not true, even if they're temporary, even if they're just like fleeting thoughts that will dissipate in the moment I say them, which has happened. I've literally said like to Lucifer, like, I'm gonna die and then turn into nothing, and then you're gonna literally forget me, and I'm going to be non-existent, and I'll have devoted my entire existence to you and only to further your own plan. And I won't matter. And he was like, oh, that's a lot. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, do you really think that? And I was like, no, I don't think so. I just think I wanted to say it. And he was like,
Sometimes I think it's like a thought experiment, right?
yeah. Yeah. And I was like, I think maybe that I was like, I think it's more of a fear than like me actually thinking that. I was like, I think it's anxiety. I think I'm anxious that that's going to happen. And he was like, Well, what's the worst that would happen in that situation? And I was like, I guess nothing, because I would just be madder and it wouldn't matter. I wouldn't really know any better, I guess, at that point. And he's like, that's true. That'd be sad for you. And I was like, wow, thanks for rubbing that salt in my wound. Um, and he was like, but really, do you think that like I would like that's the truth of our relationship? Can you feel that? Like I've alchemized with you so much. Can you feel that holds truth? And I truly can't find truth in that feeling when I lean into his energy within me. And so I have to trust the resonance within my spirit more than the madness in my human mind.
But that's kind of, I think the part is like when it stays internal, it's a singular thing,
Mhm.
and it's one thing. And then when you start to express it, it starts allowing it to bloom and become all the things, and then you can kind of allow yourself to move through it, good, bad, and different of what, it is. But I think that's the difference of why when it stays inside, it's a singular thought with only one aspect of it that's being, visited or revisited and revisited, and sometimes actually compounds it. Whereas when you give it the ability to express it beyond yourself, it allows it to flourish. And like I said, it becomes more of like a thought experiment of like, okay, yeah. I mean, like, I think about like this work, I'm like, oh, maybe I've devoted myself to a demon that I ultimately become, the, darkest entity on the planet. And you know what? At some point, maybe that's possible. And I have to live with that. But you know what? I'm taking it one day at a time, and I enjoy the work that I'm doing. And I don't feel like I'm harming anybody. I'm not harming myself. So maybe that's just somebody else's thought that, I wanted
Or
to
it's or
capture.
it's an older version of you and your like a previous version of your thoughts, or like an inner child, or like a few, you know what I mean? Like there's so many, who knows? Like thoughts are also just thoughts. Like there's no such thing as a good thought or bad thought. It's just a thought. Same thing with emotion. It's just these are just feelings. They're feelings and thoughts, and we just if we just say them, if we just give them a place to exist, and then we can work through them without judgment and without self-criticism, that's when we can start to take accountability for the actual thoughts and feelings that we have, is when we can discern between what is actually something that we think, feel, and believe versus something that we're just like temporarily expressing or feeling for the moment. But we
Yeah.
don't do that enough. And this is a lot of people, like when I deal with people that I find to be like emotionally stunted. That's rude. I can't believe I said that. But like truthfully, I do deal with that sometimes. Where it's not that they're stunted, it's just that like they're not as emotionally intelligent as they are intellectually intelligent. And I see it a lot, unfortunately, where I'm like, this is someone that is very smart, very intelligent, but cannot, for the love of fuck, intellectualize and or express how they're feeling. They just can't. And it's hard. It's a different form of communication. It is. Those are two different forms of communication. And I unfortunately am very good at expressing my emotions. I say unfortunately because typically people who are very good at expressing their emotions have been through a lot of trauma. Sorry. Um and unfortunately, I guess I kind of take that back, because people who are bad at expressing their emotions have also been through a lot of trauma. Um, it's an active choice to learn how to express your emotions. And when you are making that choice, you then have to navigate all of the trauma. You have to navigate all of your sort of conditioning and personality aspects and just move through. But it's learning a new language. It really
Completely.
is. And sometimes it's hard. There's a really good book actually called That's Not What I Meant. I highly suggest people read it. It's very good. um but it's actually for couples, I'm pretty sure, but like doesn't matter. You should still read it. It's very good. But I unfortunately have been in a lot of situations with people who don't know how to articulate their emotions. And I've had to read books like That's Not What I Meant in order to be able to understand, because for me, I get very frustrated when someone can't articulate their emotions. I'm like, just tell me what you're fucking feeling. Just say it. And then they can't. And then they feel so much anger, or they feel so much frustration, or whatever it is, or um apathy towards the situation because they're uncomfortable. So then they become anxious and avoidant. Then I want to just explode like a top, because I'm like, why can't you just communicate what you're feeling? And all of this could be avoided if we were just accountable for our actions and our feelings, to ourselves. That's it. That's it. It's about starting small. It's about going, how do I feel today? Where am I at right now? Can I articulate it? Can I find the words for it? There are things like emotion uh, wheels that you can look up different emotions. There are things like graphs and emotion sensory wheels where you can figure out the emotion tied to the sensation that you're feeling in your body if you don't know how to articulate it. But it is important to do.
Oh yeah. I mean, I made my way into my early 20s being somebody that was taught to repress every emotion that I had and not express any of it, man up and, do what you're supposed to do, to end up with this like level of like anger that was the only thing that would be expressed because it would just finally come out as, things finally, the bottle, finally pops, if you will. And
Mm.
knowing that that just couldn't work for me and where I was going, and trying to navigate that through, the work that I've done with myself to now, be somebody that is happy to express, my emotions and, share with other people. But even still, I mean, I still have times where I'm like, I forget to share externally with those around me. I have to be conscious about it.
It's not easy. It's not easy. It is something that has to be built. It is, like I said, it's an entirely different language. And it has to be, it requires accountability. Like you said, you have to be conscious about it. You have to think about it. You have to stop and go, fuck, what am I doing? What am I thinking? Where am I at? What is happening in my body? What's the emotional state of the body right now? And not just what have I shoved down. And I will say this, it is, and I don't know. I feel like it's harder for men because of, especially if you grew up in America. Well, I just think it's harder for men in general because of society kind of pressing and conditioning, and the indoctrination of like, must man up, must not have emotion.
Well,
Um,
and that's the trouble, is so that there's that reinforcement. And then when you are vulnerable, you're often met with the other side of that coin of that you're just being weak and you should
yeah,
shut up and man up and stop being weak. You're supposed to be, all these things, and you don't get to be vulnerable.
which is just so ass backwards. It really is. It really is, because vulnerability is it's such a strength, especially in a man. It's such a strength. But ugh, oh my gosh, this world.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah.
But I
Anyway,
mean, that's kind of goes back to that accountability. I hold myself accountable for wanting to share my vulnerability with especially the people that I care about.
yeah. I hope that this episode is helpful for people. I think next time you find yourself in a situation where it feels like everything is out of your control. It feels like your practice is out of your control, your friendships are out of your control. Just take a moment and be like, I am accountable for a lot of things in my life. And really kind of hone in, pull the reins, take accountability of everything you can in your own experience. And just do that for like a week. Then reassess. Look at everything else. If it still feels out of control, then it might not be in alignment with where you are and it might need to go. Um, if it still feels out of control, purge it. If it, but you might be surprised. It might suddenly fall into line, or you might realize that it wasn't as big of a deal as you thought, or you might realize that you were expecting it to be accountable when you weren't being accountable for yourself. So I hope this is helpful, and this is kind of for everything. This is for friends, family, your practice, the working with the gods. A big reminder is that the work that you're doing is you. Your practice is you. You're practicing yourself. So they're connected greatly.
Definitely. You're at the heart of this. You are the altar of your practice, and you kind of give yourself grace
Mhm.
to grow.
Yeah. All right, should we do the word of the week?
Yes, let's hear it.
Okay, my word of the week app is being so silly. Okay, I like this word. It's not a hard word, but I really like it. Prattle. It's talking for a long period of time about insignificant things. He has a tendency to prattle when asked about his hobbies. It's not a hard word, but I think it's just a fun word to say. So find ways to be like, oh, don't prattle about, or like, oh, I'm just prattling on, instead of like using other words like rambling. Try prattle. It's a good one. Prattle. So let us know if you find a way to use the word prattle.
On.
Yeah, prattle on. And if you could say it in a proper accent, a proper British accent, go for it. Um,
Really emphasizes the legitimacy of it better.
yeah, or just go super like very posh. Go posh with it. Dude, prattle about. Um, anyways, have a really fun week. We will see you next Saturday, as always.
Take care. See you then.
Bye.